Hello and welcome to this short demonstration of MapleTA. MapleTA is MapleSoft's teaching and assessment platform, which is a web-based technology for testing students primarily in the STEM subject areas, so that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It leverages the symbolic computing engine of Maple under the hood in order to generate the questions for the students and also to generate the feedback for students. It is an intelligent e-assessment system designed primarily for subjects involving mathematics. So the system itself is accessible via a web browser. It's entirely web-based. This login could be accessing a server which is hosted in your institution or hosted by us in the cloud. It can also integrate with a virtual learning environment such as Blackboard or Moodle or any other VLE that you might be using. So this login screen may not be the entry point into the system if it is connected to a VLE. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I will connect to the server through the login screen. So if I click login here, it will take me to my system homepage. Here I can see the demonstration classes as well as other classes in my instance of MapleTA. I can go into one of these classes. So if you're an instructor or a lecturer, this will take you into the class homepage, and you may have multiple classes that you have that specific role in. If you are a student, it would take you to a similar looking homepage which lists the classes that you are enrolled in. And so it is a slightly different role that one has in the system. When you go into the class homepage, you have listed here the assignments which form your class. In here there are some demonstration assignments in my demo content class. So if I click on one of these demonstration of question types assignments, it would take me into the assignment view. This is what a student taking the test would see. So in here we can see there are some questions which, for example, allow me to enter a mathematical expression to answer this particular question. So use this function and the following plot to answer the questions. We also have a 2D equation editor allowing us to enter expressions in typeset mathematics. So if I go ahead and answer this question, I can do 8x to the power 3, for example, and minus 12x to the power 2. So it's designed to be easy to use for students. There is also a guide that we would recommend for the students in a assignment designed to get them using the system and understanding how to use the system before they take any additional assignments that you might set them. There are many different question types within MapleTA. These are just some of them. You can have these mathematical style input. You can have multiple choice. You can have sort of open-ended questions, because this is using now the Maple function library under the hood to generate both the question and assess the students or grade the students' response. So in this case, there could be many different solutions. If I switch into Maple, so this is the mathematical engine that is driving this system. And all of these functions that are available in the Maple computing environment is available in TA, MapleTA. So if I am setting up a question for a student, let's say computing the integral of a particular expression, I could load a function library. For example, the Student Calculus 1 package. This gives me functionality to see some feedback, which not just shows me the solution, but also the steps involved to get to that solution. So by loading this package, I can generate the feedback interactively. And if something changes, so if this question is generated by the system randomly or algebraically, so to speak, and we regenerate the question, then the feedback is regenerated accordingly. So there are these kinds of adaptive feedback and adaptive question types within MapleTA as well. Here is an example within MapleTA itself of an adaptive question. So when we look at this particular question, we see, okay, it's asking me to find a minimum value of a function. I can try to answer that, and if I get this part wrong, it will try and guide me to the solution. So it's asking me to calculate the first derivative of this function. And so I can gain understanding of where the learning breakdowns have happened in my teaching, because all of this information is then available to me in the gradebook. So as a student, I can continue to try and understand this. So I can see exactly where the learning breakdowns happen, and I can focus on those particular areas in terms of the teaching. So it really does complement your current teaching methods. There are visual question types as well, which example of this is a clickable image question type. In this case, it's present a plot and then click on an area which has a certain hotspot, and that could be gradable. There are fill in the blank question types. These could be randomized, and so on. So there's quite a few types of response areas and question types that you could have. There is also the Maple graded question type, which allows the student to enter Maple commands in order to compute the answer. And once you have answered the questions, you can see the question menu as well, depending on if you have set that up in your assignment. You can submit the assignment. In which case you could either get the feedback immediately or get the feedback at a particular time, depending on how you have set up your assignment, or you can get the feedback immediately when you answer the question. So it will give you the feedback in line with your with you taking the assignment. So once the assignment is completed, it will then the marks will be passed to the gradebook, which is accessible to the instructor. This gradebook is also accessible. At least the grades from this gradebook are available in your VLE, should you connect MapleTA to a system like Moodle or Blackboard. But if you need, for example, detailed level statistics of each of the questions, then that information is available within TA. So we can, for example, get the item statistics. Let's look at the item statistics here. I don't think there's any information in here, but what we can see is the types of output that we can get in the gradebook. All of your content, that is the assignments, the questions, everything is contained inside of the content repository. So if we go into the content repository, this is the browser for the content repository. It has several layers. So the current class, you also have a layer which is all of your classes. You have the layer which is all of the content which is on the particular server, which could be at your institution or it could be within your department, for example. So you can split this up into the different kind of sections. And then the Maple Cloud is content that is residing in a public space on this, which is accessible by anybody worldwide, and you can explore this this Maple Cloud and look at different questions that people have pushed to the Maple Cloud, and there may be groups of questions that you might be able to learn from, or in fact copy or clone into your own classes. Once they are cloned, then you could modify them to your own needs. So if I take a look at one of these questions, I could open up the question. I can preview the question. So if I click on the preview, I can see what this question looks like, how it performs. I can see the grade if I to respond, and the type of feedback that has been defined in the question. If I am happy with this, or I want to use this question, I can clone it into my own class. Then I can view this question within my own class layer within the question repository. Here now this question is residing within my own class. I can then go and edit this question. So if I click edit, I'm now presented with the question designer. So if we were to create a question from scratch, we would see something very similar. We have to define a name for the question. We have to define the text contained inside of the question. You can see here that there are some variables which have a dollar symbol preceding them. These are what we call algorithmically generated variables. They could be randomized using the MapleTA kernel engine, and so they would appear differently each time the question is refreshed, or for each different student that opens a question. This is the response areas. These are the response areas. So if I double click on this particular response area, I could see how that response area is defined. So this will be a mathematical formula that would be the response that is expected for this part of the question, and the type of input that would be expected is a formula, and the correct value or answer for this is stored in this variable called n2. So I did not create this question myself, but in order to understand what this is doing, I would have to expand the algorithm section of this question. So and this is where we define the logic, the way in which the question is both generated and assessed. So there are a few functions that you would need to learn, maybe a dozen or so functions that are included in MapleTA that you need to know in order to generate this algorithm, and the rest of it is using the Maple function library in order to generate the specific outputs in terms of computing results and generating feedback. In this particular question, there isn't any feedback defined, but the feedback would be very similar to how we would define the question text. So you can include algorithmically generated feedback, as I showed you in the Maple example. So this is an example of a question. Similarly, you also have assignments within the content repository. So in my current class, I can take a look at the different. So if we check the assignments, I can see the different assignments currently in my class. I can take a look at the demonstration of question types assignment, and I see the see the particular questions within my within this particular class. This demonstration of question types assignment is actually from a different class. This is known as a kind of a child class. So I could clone this into my own class, so that I can make changes to it. So here, this is now cloning the entire unit. So this a unit consists of a group of assignments. Once the assignment has been, in this case, the unit has been cloned, I can go into that particular assignment and then edit that assignment. So if I click edit on the demonstration of question types, which I briefly went through earlier, I could see the assignment editor. Similar to the question editor, there are these fields that allow you to enter, example, the assignment name or the short name, and description. Allows me to select the questions contained inside of the assignment, together with the number of points for each of the questions. And you can assign partial grading as well within the questions. The final part is how you want to set the policies for this assignment. So assignments can be have different purposes. They could be for formative or summative assessment. So you can have it as an anonymous practice, and sessions are not recorded in the gradebook. Or you can have homework or quiz type questions, which are again for practicing purposes, except the results are stored, and there are various options in there. You can also have a proctored assignment, proctored exam, which locks down the system, so that you in order to do it in a controlled environment. There are also some general properties that you can set. For example, the number of attempts, the time limits. You could also schedule the assignment to appear at a certain date and time, and restrict the feedback until a particular time. There is a section on how much feedback you can give, so you can show some hints, enable various buttons within the assignment itself, in order, for example, to see how this. You can see then in line how you have done in answering that, and also the feedback after. So quite a few options within the assignment editor itself. So in terms of how to start using this system, the method will be you create an assignment, then you would bring in the users. Now, if it's connected to your VLE, then the users are automatically enrolled into this system as well, based on how you have defined the connection between the VLE and MapleTA. If not, then you can register the users, or you can import the users from a roster. So if you have an Excel file which describes, basically has all of the users, and together with the the details required, so the names and the emails, IDs, passwords, etc. Then you can import that roster into MapleTA. Then you have a set of users which are then enrolled into a particular class. Then you would go into the content repository, set the assignments, and select the questions that you want within the assignments, and then give the assignment some policy, and that would then be pushed out to your enrolled users. Once the users have taken the assignment, then the grades are pushed to the gradebook, and subsequently pushed to the VLE if there is a connection to the VLE. So that's a very quick introduction to the MapleTA system. Thank you for your time.